Florida is on sale. And today we're going to cover the top cities to find a real estate deal in. March 2023, housing data is in and it is abysmal. It is no bueno if you're thinking about selling in any of these cities. And it is fantastic news. It is a breath of fresh air if you're shopping in any of these cities. Lottie-dottie, we likes to pate if we're looking to buy a home in any of these markets. And this is a safe space. This is a no judgment zone. So if you have to shed a tear or two, don't be afraid to break out the Kleenex because I suspect there's a lot of folks that might be welling up in the eyes. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. My name is Chris Igo. If you're a returning viewer, I appreciate your participation in our journey, and I am committed to sharing the truth about what is actually happening in each and every Florida housing market. But the March 2023 housing market data is in, and to be clear, it's a month old, so I'm also going to cover what's happening right now because we're at the end of April. So you will be empowered with the best information in order to make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. So please consider subscribing to the channel if you find this content valuable, and let's get into it right now because the March numbers are out and we're going to start at a top level view. We're going to start macro, and we're going to start by covering the North Palm Beach County market. Now, I recently did content showcasing what's happening in South Palm Beach County. I also need to address what's happening in North Palm Beach County. And then from there, I'm going to go into each of the cities that exist, which are taking a beating. And not to worry, because I'll showcase where they are on the map so you know exactly where you're looking and have context as to the market that you're looking at. But to be clear, each market that is located within these cities, within these macro overviews, is very likely to trade independently and very differently than the bigger picture markets, because the hyperlocal markets are their own animal. They trade completely differently. And just so we're all on the same page, I need to be abundantly clear and transparent. We're talking about single family homes in North Palm Beach. The single family overview of the market. Closed sales took a beating, down 8.5%. Median sales price on the uptick. The median sales price throws out the extremely high values. It throws out the completely low values. It takes the middle value, and that can distort the market depending on how homogeneous the market actually is. And while it's instructive to know, I can also make the argument that average sales price tends to be more helpful in most of the markets that I serve. And to be clear, most of the markets that I serve are higher price points. Nonetheless, median sales price upticked 1.5% to 610,000 from a low of 601. Average sales price on the downtick, down 10.4% from a high of March 2022 of 1.131 and some change, down to $1,013,000 and some change. No bueno if you're counting on that equity to cash out with. Dollar volume took a hit, down 18.2%. Percent of original list price received, down 6.4%. Bye 100%. Hello 92.9. And to be clear, it was 99.3 back in March of 2022. But as of last month, it was 92.9. And to be clear, I'm going to cover April. So do not sweat it. You're going to know what's happening right now because I'm committed to telling you the truth. Median time to contract, massive exponential uptick, up 262.5% to 29 days from a year ago where it was 8 days. 8 days is not a normal market. It is a highly abnormal market. It was a highly insane, competitive market. That is no longer the case unless you price your home the right way, create a market within a market, and find the one buyer on planet Earth willing to pay more than anybody else, which happens to be one of my specialties. So if that's something we can help with, please reach out directly. Pending sales are down 10.2%. There were 715 pending sales as of March 2022. That number dropped to 642. New listings continue to plague the market. There are much less sellers that are interested in selling their homes. And I suspect that's got a lot to do with the fact that interest rates are skyrocketing. And I want to be abundantly clear. I do believe that we have a more than likely possibility of mortgage interest rates decreasing in the near future. Because as I've mentioned, housing is a lagging indicator. It is the last value to fall during an economic crisis, change, crash, collapse, whatever you want to call it. It's the last value to drop. And it takes time for those things to catch up. But I suspect in May, when the new housing market data comes out, it will start to cooperate with inflation. And if that is in fact true, then I suspect we are going to see lower mortgage interest rates. Yet to be determined, I don't know. And I could be completely wrong. Perhaps the data won't support that. But if it does, I suspect we're going to see an ease in mortgage interest rates in the near term. Long term, I suspect it's no bueno, and I'll go into that in a future video. But I think we're going to see some more affordability come into the market as it relates to mortgage interest rates as we get into May. But we're not in May, we're in April, and we're talking about March. So let's keep on trucking. Pending sales down 10.2%, new listings down 14.4%. Inventory of homes for sale on the uptick, up 54%. There are 1,921 homes in the North Palm Beach County market, which are sitting on the market unsold. And they're sitting on the market unsold for a longer period of time compared to the recent past. But the month supply of inventory has upticked 100% from under 2 months to just under 4, which is a neutral market, which is trending to buyer's market very quickly, which of course means celebrate good times. Come on, if you're thinking about buying, and it's probably not so great if you're thinking about selling. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you know that I've talked about the fact that homeowners in this market and in most Florida markets feel wealthy. They're sitting on a metric shit ton of equity. Although things have changed radically in March, and in the cities I'm about to highlight, you will see that those changes are extreme because they are. The truth is, the median sales price in North Palm Beach County is actually up almost 20% over the course of the last 12 months. That is what the average appreciation is over the last year. But what you can't help but notice, outside of February, which was the first time we saw a decline in terms of median sales price of just under 1%, we have the slowest appreciating month over the course of the last 11. It's up 1.5%. And I'm aware that average sales price tells a different story, but we'll get into that next. Gone are the days of 23, 32, 26, 25, 22, 27.6, 20, 13, almost 14, 8.6, and 10% appreciation. Single digit growth is what I suspect we will see in most Palm Beach County markets over the course of the next year. Yet to be determined, I don't know. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's keep in mind what history has shown us. What did the market look like pre-pandemic? What did it look like when the market crashed? And what you can see is that although we're not at the top of the market at 680, which is what we saw in May of 2022, we're not too far off at 610. But we are a far cry from where we were pre-pandemic when the average for a home in this market was under 400,000. And if we go all the way back in history to the lowest point on this chart, which is somewhere arguably between 2011 and 2012, I'm going to say it's 2011, you could buy a home in this market for under $200,000. Homeowners in this market, depending on when they bought, are sitting on a metric shit ton of equity up until they're not, which takes us to average sales price, which tells us a very similar story. But you'll also notice there's a heck of a lot more volatility priced into the market, and the swings are far more extreme. And in March, the average sales price was down 10.4%. And in February, it was down 27% at 877. But if we look over the past 12 months, what you'll see is starting in April of 2022, an uptick of 2.3%, an uptick of 12.3%, an uptick of almost 31%, an uptick of almost 14%, followed by 4.4, 16.3, and 28%. Whopping appreciation in terms of average sales price. But yet, November was a decrease of 7%. December was a decrease of 10%, followed by an uptick of 4.2, and then, of course, the negative 27 and negative 10.4. But you can see there is extreme volatility in terms of pricing as far as average sales price is concerned in the North Palm Beach County market. But what does history tell us? Let's get context as to what that means. Although we are no longer at the high of what was damn near 1.5 million, the average sales price is still above $1 million in this market. And in 2019, it was under 500,000. And at the end of 2011, which is how long it takes for real estate values to actually price in the great financial crisis, the average sales price was under $250,000 for a single family home. So homeowners in this market, depending on when they purchase the home, are sitting on a metric shit ton of equity up until they're not. And the trend is not your friend, in case you haven't picked up on it yet. But supply and demand will always dictate price. And while I absolutely suspect that there are going to be far fewer buyers that are interested in buying when interest rates are at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20%, there's going to be a reduced buyer pool. But make no mistake, there will still be people buying homes in Palm Beach County, in North Palm Beach County. They'll just be getting much better deals. And if you're thinking about selling, you'll be receiving far less equity that you might be banking on if you are under the disillusion that your home is still worth what it used to be worth. Because the truth is, it's not. But new listings will have an impact on supply of homes. And supply of homes will dictate what price is relative to the amount of demand that exists. And right now, sellers are not interested in selling their homes because they don't want to trade into a higher interest rate on a monthly basis. They don't want to pay more on a monthly basis. And many folks don't know that they can negotiate mortgage interest rate if you have the right conditions, if you have the right seller and the market allows for it. But nonetheless, new listings are in short supply. March, a deficit of 14.4. February, a deficit of 3.3. The 12-month average is still on the uptick, up 1%. But if you look back over the last year, you can see there's a lot of uncertainty that exists for sellers because they're all over the place in terms of whether they want to sell. April, deficit of almost 10%. Followed by an uptick of 14.3, 6.4, 11%, 1.3%, and then another downtick in September. And it's interesting, if you track what the mortgage interest rates were, I think you'll follow the pattern. Nonetheless, down 8.2% in terms of new listings, followed by 1.8% increase. Then a loss of 2, a loss of damn near 10, and then in January, a massive uptick of almost 25%, followed by a loss of 3.3, and finally March, which is a short supply of 14.4%. And while this macro data is instructive, it's kind of meaningless in the hyperlocal market that you're shopping in. So let's get more granular and look at the cities that are on sale where you can score a real estate deal. And the first city on the chopping block, as far as median and average sales prices are concerned, is West Palm Beach. The West Palm Beach single family housing market. Closed sales down 13.6%. Median sales price down 6% from 500 in March of 2022 to 470 as of March 2023. Average sales price, pow, right in the kisser, down damn near 20% from a high of 855 to a low of under 700. 694 and change to be exact. If you're counting on that equity and you think you have it when you go to sell and it's not there, that is going to hurt. No bueno. But great news if you're thinking about buying. Dollar volume got whacked, and that's a function of the three metrics I just discussed. And the percent of original list price received continues on the downward trend, down almost 6%. Gone are the days of 100%. And hello, welcome to the party, 92.8%. Median time to contract upticked 51.6%, 47 days from 31. That is a return to normal. It doesn't particularly catch my attention, but it is something we must pay attention to. Pending sales are down almost 34%. New listings, which is the supply of homes, it can insulate price depending on what demand is from buyers that are shopping. Nonetheless, new listings are down almost 26% from 268 a year ago to under 200 in March. And to be clear, we're going to look at April in a second. Inventory of homes for sale up 62.6%, and months supply of inventory on the uptick from 1.6 months to a high of 3.6, up 125%. Still a seller's market that is trending to neutral very quickly and is certainly much more favorable for buyers because there's 457 homes sitting on the market for much longer than they have in the past. And you've got much more leverage and many more choices if you're thinking about buying in West Palm Beach, which is why it is critical you work with the professional that understands the hyperlocal market in order to negotiate for you and get you the best deal the right way. Which takes us to April data, because although March data was no bueno, what's happening right now is far more important than what happened 30 days ago. So let's look and see what's happening in the West Palm Beach market for single family homes in April. And if you look at today's stats, which is on the bottom, what you'll see is that the current versus previous month to date is up 21.2% from a low of 609 to a high of 738, which, to be clear, is still a deficit if you compare it to the same month a year ago. It's down 6.1% from a high of 786 to 738 for the period that encompasses April from 4/1 to 4/23. And if we look at the current versus previous year to date, which encompasses January 1st up until April 23rd, you'll notice that the average sold price is down almost 5% from 729 to 694. The trend is not your friend if you're thinking about selling in this market, and it's muy bueno if you're thinking about buying. Which takes us to the city of Palm Beach Gardens. And single family home values in Palm Beach Gardens took it right on the kisser. No bueno, down 8.2% for median sales price and down 28.2% in terms of average sales price. And although closed sales are on the uptick by 42.6%, I suspect if you were expecting to get 1.588 for the sale of your home and you got 1.14, you're not real happy. And if you don't like average sales price because it includes too many high price points, fine, let's look at the median sales price. If you were expecting 879 on the sale of your home and you got 807, you're probably not too ecstatic about that. But I got news for you. It's going to get worse. Nonetheless, median time to contract is up 56.3%. Percent of original list price received down 6% to 92.5. Pending sales are up 20%. New listings in this market, there is a bigger supply. We have an uptick of 16.2%. I guess home sellers are getting the memo that they don't want to be the last ones through the exit door when somebody yells, "Fire sale!" Nonetheless, inventory of homes for sale upticked from 118 to 308. You want to be in front of that if you're thinking about selling. And that translates into a month's supply of inventory uptick of 223%, 4.2 months versus 1.3. It is trending to buyer's market fast. And it's critical to understand what's happening in the hyperlocal market that you're shopping in within Palm Beach Gardens in order to advocate and negotiate for yourself the right way. And if you need help with that, please reach out because we would love to help. But given the fact that we're talking about old news and we're talking about data that's a month old, let's look and see what's happening in April to govern ourselves accordingly and see what's actually happening in April. And if you look at the bottom at today's stats, what you can't help but notice is that the average sales price, current versus previous month to date, is on the uptick by 9.5%, from a low of 1156 to a high of 1.266. That seems like good news, right? Well, not exactly, because if you look at the same month compared to a year ago, it's actually down 12.4%, from a high of 1.445 to a low of 1.266. And if we look at the current versus previous year to date, the bad news continues to stack, down 6.5%, from a high of 1.291 to a low of 1.207. No bueno if you're thinking about selling, and muy bueno if you're thinking about buying. And to be clear, this is a macro picture. The hyper-local markets trade differently, and you must know what they are in order to govern yourself accordingly. Which takes us to Jupiter. Single family homes in Jupiter in March of 2023, closed sales are on the uptick, 5.6%. Median sales price is down 10.1%, from a high of 855 to a low of 768. But the average sales price tells us a little different story. It's actually up 4.3%, from 1.448 to 1.51. Well, Chris, how is it possible that the average sales price is higher than the median? Well, as I mentioned before, median throws out what the high values are and it gives you the middle term. The average sales price includes everything and just gives you the average. I find it more instructive. And to be abundantly clear, I understand the differences. I'm not here to debate which one's better. I'm just here to tell you what the numbers are. Percent of original list price received is down 8%. Bye bye 100.2 and hello 92.2. Total dollar volume for single family homes is on the uptick of 10.2%, and I suspect that is a function of closed sales being on the uptick and average sales prices also being on the uptick, which takes us to median time to contract, which is up 85.2%, from 27 days to 50, a return to normal. Pending sales up 12.6%, up to 98. New listings up 5.1% to 124. Inventory of homes for sale up 83.6%. That's a pretty big whopper, from 128 to 235. 235 homes are sitting on the market unsold in Jupiter, and they're sitting on the market longer, which is no bueno if you're thinking about selling. And it's great news if you're thinking about buying. Month supply of inventory on the uptick by 113% to 3.2 months from 1.5. That's a big jump. It's still a seller's market, but the market dynamics are shifting and trending to a more favorable condition for buyers very quickly. But in an effort to maintain relevancy and not be the guy who's talking about yesterday's news, we need to know what's happening right now in April. And in April, average sales price was on the uptick, current versus previous month to date. Average sales price is up 4.5%. But that could be a little bit distorting because if you look at the current versus same month a year ago, average sold price is down 24.5%, from a high of 2.16 million to a low of 1.63. So that trend is not your friend if you're thinking about selling, and it's probably your friend if you're thinking about buying. But the current versus previous year to date so far is still on the uptick, up 2.9%, from 1.448 to 1.49, going higher up until it's not. Which takes us to Royal Palm Beach. And Royal Palm Beach is a smaller market than some of the markets that I've covered, but it is instructive and I'm committed to telling you the truth. Closed sales are up 14.3%. Median and average sales price are both on the downtick. And what you can see by looking at both of them is that both of these figures are more reasonable when compared to some of the higher price point markets. And some of the markets in which you're shopping in Royal Palm Beach should be scrutinized carefully and should be analyzed in terms of crime statistics. but I'll let you do your homework there and stick to the data because the data doesn't lie. Median sales price dropped from 527 to 504 and dropped from 540 to 534. No bueno if you're thinking about selling in this market. Dollar volume on the uptick, but so are closed sales, and percent of original list price received is 95.6%, a decrease of 7.2%. Gone are the days of 103% when selling your home, unless you market your home the right way and work with someone who understands how to create a market within a market. But I don't want to continue to beat the same drum. You know where to find me if you need help with that. Median time to contract up 245% to 38 days. It returned to normal. Pending sales down almost 20%, 19.4 to be exact, dropped from 36 to 29. New listing deficiency, short supply, down 22.6% from 53 to 41. Inventory of homes for sale sitting on the market unsold, uptick 34%, 67 homes versus 50. And month supply of inventory up 75% to 2.1 months from 1.2. 2 months is still a seller's market, but as you can tell, buyers have more choices, more leverage, and I suspect are negotiating much better deals. But Chris, that's old news. What's happening in April? Well, I'm glad you asked. Look at today's stats, and what you'll notice is that the current versus previous month to date average sold price is up 4.9% from 536 to 562. And if you look at the same period a month ago, you'll notice it's flat. 562 equals 562. No change there. And if you look at the current versus previous year to date, you can see that the average sold price in the Royal Palm Beach market is up 2.5%, up until it's not. And those trends are not your friend if you're paying attention. But if you bury your head in the sand and pretend that nothing's changed and everything's fine, well, then you get what you get and you don't get upset. Which takes us to Loxahatchee single family homes in March. What you can see, closed sales on the uptick, up almost 36% from 28 to 38. Median and average sales price both on the downtick from 645 to let's call it 620, down almost 4% for median sales price, and average sales price down almost 7% from 685 to 639. No bueno if you're thinking about selling, and great news if you're shopping for a deal. Dollar volume's on the uptick too, but so are closed sales, and median time to contract is up to 68 days from 20. 240% change. Pending sales up 39% from 31 to 43. New listings, in short, supply, no bueno. If you're looking at the supply of new homes coming on the market, that number's down almost 29% from 42 to 30. Inventory of homes sitting on the market, unsold. Which is your competition if you're thinking about selling? And are your choices if you're looking to negotiate better deals and have more choices? Well, it's up 31.4% to 92 from 70. And month supply is also on the uptick, although nowhere near as extreme as other markets. It's up almost 17% to 2.8 months from 2.4. Still a seller's market in which buyers have far more leverage. But Chris, what is happening in April? We want to know what's happening right now. And I want you to know too, because the truth will set you free. And what you can see in today's stats, and I hope you can hear my dog barking because he's not happy about this at all. Average sales price is up 25.2% from 603 to 755. So month over month, there seems to be some relief for sellers. But if we look at the current versus the same month a year ago, it's no bueno, down 6% from 803 to 755. And if we look at the current versus previous year to date, you can see it's still up 2.8% from 646 to 664. And you must know what the hyper-local market conditions are if you're thinking about buying in any of these markets, because each one trades different, which takes us to the Tequesta housing market. And Tequesta is in the north end of all of these cities. Tequesta is a smaller market. There were 8 closed sales, which is the same thing as it was a year ago. Median sales price and average sales price Both have astronomical gains, up almost 40% for median and up almost 50% for average sales price. Median sales price jumped from 800,000 to almost 1.2, and average sales price jumped from a touch over a million to 1.5 and change. Massive jump in Tequesta. Dollar volume on the uptick, percent of original list price received on the downtick, down 13.5% from 100.8 to 87.2. That's a big swing. Median time to contract from 7 days to 65, up 828.6%. Pending sales down 50%. 9 versus 18. New listings down 43.8%. 9 versus 16. Inventory of homes for sale on the uptick from 15 to 24, which is up 60%, and month supply of inventory jumped 181% to 3.1 months, trending to neutral and buyers fast from an extreme seller's market at 1.1 months. But if we look at today's news, what's happening in April, and you look at today's stats, what you can't help but notice is that the current versus previous month to date is down 13.5%. From a high of 1.79 to a low of 1.549. And if we look at today's stats, which is the current versus same month a year ago, we're still on the uptick by almost 2%. And if you look at the current versus previous year to date, you can see a similar trend, up 15.1% to 1.343 from 1.167. What will may be yet to be determined, but you can bet your sweet bippy I'm going to keep you posted. Which takes us to the Riviera Beach, Florida housing market, single family homes. And you can't help but notice that these price points are a lot lower than many of the markets that I've covered so far. And again, in Riviera Beach, if you're thinking about buying here, I would encourage you to check out the most recent statistics related to crime. Because although I can't do a deep dive into what that is right now, we're going to stick to the data, which does not lie. I would definitely want to check out what those metrics are. If I was turned on by these prices, I would want to know, because it's possible there might be a reason. And to be abundantly clear and not to paint a distorted picture, please understand that crime exists everywhere, but there are certain markets and certain hyperlocal markets that I would probably avoid. So govern yourself accordingly. Nonetheless, closed sales are down 52% from 25 to 12. Median and average sales price are both on the uptick big time. Median sales price up 36%. Average sales price up 62.6% from 270 to 367 and change for the median sales price and 344 to 560 for the average sales price. Muy bueno if you're thinking about selling, and probably not such great news if you're thinking about buying in this market, which is arguably far more affordable than many other markets that I've covered. Percent of original list price received is down 6%. Time to contract is up from 22 to 41 days, an increase of 86%. Pending sales are up 6%, but again, it was only one more sale from 17 to 18. And new listings are down 45% from 31 to 17. Inventory of homes for sale is on the downtick. And that's the first time I've seen this in any of the markets that I've covered, from 54 homes sitting on the market unsold to 40. And I suspect that's got a lot to do with affordability being much better in this market, and hopefully an indication that crime does not pay. Month supply of inventory is down 13.8%, dropping from 2.9 to 2.5, which is still a seller's market. But buyers in March of 2023 are paying significantly more than they were a year ago. And if we look at today's stats, what you can't help but notice is that the current versus previous month to date is down 1% from 342 to 339. And the current versus same month to date a year ago took a massive jump, up 22% from 278 to 339. And same applies to current versus previous year to date, which is up 4.5% from 308 to 322. things are on the uptick, depending on which side of the market you're on, in the Riviera Beach housing market, which takes us to Lake Clark Shores. And Lake Clark Shore homes, which is a very small market compared to many of the ones I've covered so far, are appreciating massively as of March of 2023, with median sales price being up 34.7% and average sales price being up 21%. But keep in mind, there were only 3 closed sales, which is an uptick of 50%, but there were only 2 a year ago. Percent of original list price received is down 6% from 99.7 to 93.7, and the time to contract is kind of laughable. It jumped from 3 to 5 days, up 66.7%, which should give you an idea of how small this market actually is and how much demand exists for the products that exist within this market. Nonetheless, new listings are flat at 4, and inventory of homes for sale, although skyrocketing up 200%, there's only 9 homes for sale sitting on the market unsold versus 3, which is a jump from 1 month to 2.4, which is an increase of 140%. But Chris, we don't care about what happened yesterday. We want to know what's happening right now. And I want you to know what's happening right now too. So let's look at today's stats. Current versus previous month to date single family homes in Lake Clark Shores are what? Not available. How is that possible? Well, I can tell you there haven't been any sales in this market, current versus previous month to date. But the average sold price in April relative to March, where there were none, was $718,000. So I hope that gives you context into how small this market actually is. Nonetheless, current versus same month to date a year ago, prices on the uptick, up 25%, 718 versus 575, and current versus previous year to date also on the uptick, 14.6% from 650 to 745. Now, I hope you found this content valuable, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and if you're thinking about buying or selling, please reach out directly because we would love to help. Please stay tuned because I will absolutely 1000% cover every single city that exists within the Broward and Palm Beach County markets and every metro that exists within the state of Florida. So I will cover the market that you are interested in very soon. So please stay tuned and check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time, peace.